as I said earlier, I got feelings and I got questions, and the questions are causing my feelings. Welcome back to Talking Story. My name is John Minton, and I have a review today, another self-published book, and this is the Wickwire Watch, book 1 of the Riverfall Chronicles by Jacqueline Hagan. Now, Jacqueline was lovely enough to send me a copy of this book for an honest review, and actually she sent me 2 books, and she was a truly wonderful person to give up her time with all the questions I peppered her with over email while I did my read-through of the book. And I'm going to get into the review for you right now. This is a wonderful book, guys. You want to absolutely pick this up. And right off the bat, I want to congratulate Jacqueline. She was just named, I believe, as a semifinalist in SmithBo. This is one of the standouts of self-published books this year, and I can absolutely see why. There is so much here to love, and we are going to get into every bit of it in the full review. And my reviews work on a classic 5-star system. We're going to look at 5 different categories: world building, plot, character, pace, and prose. Each category you can score anywhere from a 1/4 star to a full star. And at the end, we're going to kind of do a little bit of math and add that all up, and that's my final score for the book. So let's kick right off with world building. World building, now this book is a puzzle. This book is a jigsaw puzzle. And I don't mean it's that starter jigsaw puzzle that we all sat on the floor and drank Kool-Aid and ate saltines with together in kindergarten, where it's the big pieces with a little knob that you can kind of fit where it goes. No, this is one of those all-in mystery jigsaw puzzles. It's like 5,000 pieces plus, and there's not even a picture. It's just shades of gray across. And the world building of this book is the star. Every time you find a little bit out something about this world and you can click that piece into place, it's amazing. You get to see more. This is a journey through the book, and a journey through this world, and a journey through this conflict, and a journey through these characters moving through the world. Each piece enlightens you more. Each piece gives you a little bit more of an answer of what's going on, but each piece also gives you so many more questions. At the end of this book 1 of what's projected to be a 7-book series, you kind of have the border of that jigsaw puzzle, because they have a straight edge and you can find those pieces, and everything else is just shades of gray. And even at the end of this book, there's maddeningly like 3 or 4 holes in the border, and I should be able to find those because they've got a straight edge on it. And why can't I get those pieces in or have those answers? I have feelings about this book. I've got to have some answers. So I'm going to be very vague about describing the world, because it is the star of the show, and as it becomes unveiled and you put pieces in and find out more about the world, it is what causes you to turn pages, and it is so delightfully mysterious and wonderful. So I'm going to be as vague as I can. It's not a medieval setting. It's more of a Victorian gas lamp setting, flickering across the wet cobblestone streets. It is a country called Erarius, and living in Erarius were the Entrians, and they seem to be kind of in touch with nature. They have a clan system, a family system, and sometimes there can be feuds between these family and clans, and they are magic users, and these feuds between the family clans can get pretty heated, pretty dangerous. Now, into the country of Erarius came the Castrians. The Castrians are more of a concrete group of people. They're more about community building through technology, through bureaucracy, through government. Their belief system is a bit different, and they're very inventive, and this brings an element of steampunk to the book, because their inventiveness is, the things they can do in building their cities and communities and bureaucracies. You have this delightful kind of steampunk Victorian feel. So very different, right? New people coming to this country where the Entrians were. So it is by decree, as these feuds among these families can happen, it is by decree that these people be separate, that they stay separate. for their own safety's sake. So here's a world that we have. The country is divided. The people are divided. And we start to peel away the layers of why this division happens as we move through this world. And a large part of this world takes place in the village of Riverfall, as you would expect from the Riverfall Chronicles. And I want to say nothing about that, because as the character moves through this world and gets there, it is such a whimsical, lyrical, magical place. I cannot give any of it away and feel good about myself, other than to tell you, you will be enamored with it. You will be in love with it. You will want to see what's behind every door. If anyone ever played that old video game Myst, and you're just walking around and you're trying to, with your mouse touch everything and turn everything over and open every door, that is exactly how you're going to feel about the village of Riverfall. So obviously, political situations, yes. Separated peoples through bureaucracy and politics and beliefs. Characters moving through a rich world, a metaphysical element because we have these malicious specters, these spirits that are breaking through. So she has given herself free rein, she has, Miss Hagen, to play with any color on this canvas of the world. You've got political unrest, you've got lyrical and whimsical, you've got a bit of horror element with the malicious specters. It's all there. The world building is absolutely complete, but it is absolutely wonderfully shrouded in mystery, and every time you put a piece down, it becomes a little bit broader in scope and a little bit broader in spectrum, and that is what keeps pushing you to turn pages. And that is all I'm going to say about the world building, because I want you to have the joy of discovering it yourself. But I will say this, I got to give it 1 full star. I was absolutely in love with this world. It kept me turning the pages over and over and over again. So let's get into plot. I think the real star here for me, as I said, is world building and character. I'll get to that in a minute. The plot, it's not a driving plot. It's not moving you forward. It almost follows a chaotic model of these characters are swept up in events far larger than them and pushed through this world. And as they're pushed through this world, you get to meet these groups of people that are happening, that have caused these happenings, and it's becoming more and more enlightening as we go along. So I'll give you the broadest strokes of plot, because again, I don't want to ruin anything. You've got these two separate peoples, and one of the Entrians, a person called Darian, wants to have a huge peaceful gathering and get rid of this decree that separates the peoples. We are stronger in our differences. We should embrace that. We should move together, forward together, and we should get rid of this decree that separates us. So there's a big peace rally on an island that's planned, and he is going to speak and kick off this movement. Now, this goes horribly wrong. This is a moment in the history of this country as a fulcrum that changes everything after. Who is really responsible for it? Who do people believe are responsible for it? Who is paying the price for it? All these kind of questions are examined as the book goes forward. You have, it opens with a murder in a town, and a murder in the town of Mr. Bast has been killed, and they start to look into this, and there is a little orphan scamp that the newspaper man sends into the house to get information after this murder, because he wants to find out about this murder, because it would appear Mr. Bast is one of the group that caused things to go horribly wrong at this peace gathering. And, he's itchy for juicy information about this, right? The scamp could use a little hard coin, and he agrees to sneak into the house and see what he can find. And this launches that little scamp, and to an extent the newspaper man, but we far and away follow the little scamp more on a journey through this world and a journey through what actually happened during that peace rally and the fallout thereof, and who's responsible, and are the people responsible, really responsible. And the peace rally actually did work in a way, even though things went horribly wrong, because the people that everyone thinks are responsible for it going horribly wrong are universally despised. And that, in a way, brings everyone together. But are they worth it? Are they worth being universally despised? This is a great question, or is it just PR? And if it's just PR, who's pulling the strings of that PR? And if they're not responsible, who really was responsible? And all these delightful questions are swirling around as Inkwell Featherfield, the delightful little scamp, moves through this world and starts to find out all the answers in all the corners of this world, and the characters that he runs into as he moves along. And that newspaper man, Mr. Spindler, is also checked into. He is trying to find out through bureaucratic means and do a little bit of different route. And we kind of follow him a bit as well, but mostly it's Inkwell, and we're getting more and more enlightened. What I love about the plot is it does deal with the themes of the story that makes up who we are, our own history, and if that starts to get manipulated, who are we really? And I think it's summed up so beautifully by a character in the book, Interest Saharain, and I have to read this because I thought it was just beautifully illustrates the theme of this. The level of harm that may be caused by truth passing into myth is immeasurable. Wisdom is bred out of an entire people, one generation after the other, until it becomes all too easy to be taken advantage of. What an amazing, timely theme. In a large way, we are a polarized country at the moment, and we believe what we believe in our own spectrums, and we can get bolstered that information from whatever news station we want to watch, or and the amazing thing is the facts may be in the middle, and we may be way more like each other than we want to first admit if we would just look at it a little deeper. But whoever is pulling the strings of putting out these stories of what happened and who's responsible is drumming up a hysteria or drumming up a polarizing movement. And I just found it to be absolutely fascinating, that theme moving throughout the book of who's truly responsible. Again, I think the real star is the world building, the real star, the characters moving through and becoming more and more pieces to the puzzle and enlightened of what's going on. Does it have a plot that really pushes you? Again, it's that chaos movement. They just seem to be on the run, moving through a world, finding things out as they go. I didn't really feel pushed by a plot or moved by a plot, but it was just, the mystery was so delightful and the world building was so amazing and the characters moving through it were so amazing. I can only take a little quarter star off for plot because I didn't feel the plot pushing me as a reader, but the mystery and the world were so amazingly delightful, I couldn't put the book down. So 3/4 star on plot. Character. Miss Hagen does an amazing job with character for several reasons, and I'm going to try to run those down for you. Again, this event in the history that changes everything. So you have, as Inkwell, the delightful scamp Inkwell Featherfield, moves through this world and starts to come into contact with people that are maybe taking the blame fairly or unfairly, you're starting to find out they're real people with real hopes, real desires, real guilt, real grief, you're finding out the newspaper man that sent him into that house is now guilt-ridden and wants only the best for him. Every character is moving from a motivational standpoint that is absolutely understandable and absolutely at the best that they feel their situation, the best they think their world should have. You've got the Intrians investigating, you've got the Castrians investigating, you've got, in the middle of all of this, you have the archetype character of Inkwell Featherfield, and it was such a stroke of genius for Jacqueline Hagan to do this, because all this chaos swirling around from all these questions and all this mystery, there's someone to grab onto in the middle that you absolutely want to follow. We're so enamored with this character. You're so enamored with like a chosen one character from questionable parentage or an orphan type thing moving through a world, that we latch onto him immediately because we can latch onto nothing else. At the back of this book, trust no one, and you don't. People will give you, I've got hard physical evidence of what really happened, but it's like, yeah, but I've spent time with the person you're saying is responsible, and I don't know if I really buy that. I don't trust that. I mean, everyone seems to be moving through the book as the best they can from their character. I buy their motivation and I buy why they're doing it, but I don't trust what they're saying. And it's all grounded perfectly in the one archetype character all the way back in storytelling to the Dickensian top hat, long frock coat on a delightful orphan that I can latch onto and know one thing I want to root for, one thing I know for sure, I'm going to follow this delightful little scamp, Inkwell Featherfield, to the gates of hell, because I can't latch on to anything else. I trust no one. I will buy none of this at face value, and it works beautifully. The newspaper man Spindler that initially sends him into that house to find out things after the murder of Mr. Bast is guilt-ridden because now he's been swept up into this whole thing, and this poor orphan, I did this. So he's trying to get answers to help the orphan. The Entrians are trying to understand what happened that fateful day at that peace conference, that peace rally that went so horribly wrong. They're investigating because as Inkwell moves through the world, he comes into contact with who they think is responsible. Are they really? Could they be? In some shades, yes. In some shades, you question. It's a wonderfully complex and it's wonderfully not easy to answer these hard questions. So I think, and as Inkwell moves into and he meets all these characters in Riverfall, and you get to know them, that's why you won't even believe when someone shows you hard evidence about something. It's like, no, I'm not going to believe that about that person, because the characters are so fully realized and so delightful, you just won't believe it. So characters, I have to give a full star. The world building and the characters of this absolutely are the star of this show. Pace, it did slow down for me an ooch. In the middle, it did not have a plot driving me as Inkwell moved through this world and he got to this delightful village of Riverfell, and you're spending the time in this village. And again, I'm not even going to say much about it because it's so amazing and magical. And it's pastoral and it's whimsical and it's beautiful and it's delightful. And you're going through the day-to-day lives of all the people in it. And you absolutely have to spend that time because you absolutely have to get to know them. So when aspersions are cast on them, you won't even believe it, as I said before in the plot part. So you absolutely have to spend that time, and it's done really well, but it just slowed down a little bit for me, just a little bit. So, and I think this could be, I didn't feel a plot really driving, and I think in this middle part is why it's just slowed down. So I'm just going to take a quarter off. Just that one part slowed down. And then when anything would happen, like you come into contact with artifacts such as the Wickwire watch that you think, ooh, this might shed some light, or you meet someone that, ooh, this might shed some light on the mystery, it just accelerates because you are so enamored with answering these questions. So Pace, I'm going to go 3/4 star, which only leaves us with Prose. And I just feel that this is almost unfair. You think about, and one of the first questions I asked Jacqueline Hagan was, did you try to go the trad pub way? Because to me, this would be such a lauded, best-selling book. It's complex, it's genre building, it's fresh, it's new, it's a mystery that continues to push you forward through the narrative. It has so many things that I think it should be on every shelf in every bookstore in every town and city across the country. And I just, it's like, I asked her about why Self Pub and why not Trad Pub, and did you try Trad Pub, and are you happy with Self Pub? And she was a lovely person to answer all these questions for me. And one of these things that I find it hard to believe was the prose is so good. There's a lot, again, the complexity and the mysteries and the layering of one mystery on top of another. And she does it with such precision, and a lot of the times the language is just beautiful enough in the description of the world around you that you're taken aback. And there's always just enough humor to take the edge off if it's needed, if it builds up to that point. I just think this is an author that should be getting so much attention, and I'm so thrilled that she's a semifinalist, and I could absolutely see it moving. I haven't read a ton of self-published stuff, but this could absolutely be one of your finalists, and I wouldn't be shocked if it wins the whole darn thing. I haven't read all the other finalists, but it's like I would go, yeah, I totally see that. That's a great book. And that's a book that makes me want to pick up book 2 immediately. So I'm going to go Prose, full star. And I rarely, if ever, do that on a debut book or like somebody's first book. I always see, I can see them, they're working on their craft and they're getting to this. But I know Miss Hagen has a theater background. I know she has a filmmaking background, and her storytelling chops are absolutely just wonderful. And if you go on this ride, you will absolutely be a fan. You will absolutely run out and pick up book 2 and 3 that are out now. Book 2 is The Spider Key, and book 3, I believe, is The Blue Flame. All of that is hinted in book 1. And you will see exactly what I mean by, at the end of this, I've got that frame to that puzzle and I'm still missing some pieces. And those pieces, that is what I'm going to talk about in the spoilery section coming up right after this. But I will say, if we add all that together, the Wickwire Watch, Book 1 of the Riverfall Chronicles by Jacqueline Hagen, comes in at a 4.5 for me on a debut book. That is unbelievable. That means this is an author I'm going to continue to follow, and I can't wait to see what she does in the future with this series, and probably after that series, color me an absolute fan. Thank you so much for joining in with me here at Talking Story. My name is John Minton. Like and subscribe if you like what we do here and you want to keep coming back. I'm going to pause right here. For those of you that have not read this book, tune out right now, because on the other side, I'm going to get into some spoilery talk. Okay, Jacqueline, I need answers. What really happened at that peace conference? Who is really responsible? Who is really pulling the strings? Who is really pulling the strings of this whole PR campaign of who is responsible? And did Caradoc really do it? I don't want to buy that. And what's up with Inkwell's grandfather? Like, that's obviously not a normal specter. Like, that's not just someone pulled to a malicious person to cause chaos. I mean, that's a specter that has an agenda. Like, what's going on with that? And the Wickwire watch, who is Wickwire? And why was this watch just found in a dilapidated shack by a lake? Something with this much power. Why was it just in a box? Who would leave it there? Who had it? Why was it left there? I've got so many questions. I hope these get answered in book 2 or 3, or the United States Air Force has to give you more time to get books 4 through 7 written, because I don't know if I can hold out. As I said earlier, I got feelings and I got questions, and the questions are causing my feelings. And that's it for me. Thanks so much for joining me on Talking Story. If you guys hung out for the spoilery talk, which was actually more of a rant, and it was a rant because I was excited by this book. My name is John Minton. Come back again. We will check you next time on Talking Story.